Welcome to an exciting new feature of the New Jersey State Bar Association website. We're now offering with Affinity Consulting a new practice management advisory portal called the PracticeHQ. And my name is Jeff Schoenberger. I work with Affinity Consulting, and I'd like to walk you through the features available on this new PracticeHQ website. So first of all, to get to the website, you would go to the normal NJSBA.com, and it will be linked to from there. So super easy to find. Once you land on the PracticeHQ, you will see the page on the screen now, and this is where we're going to start together. So you can see at the top that this is, of course, a free resource. There's no additional charge, no added fees or anything like that. So everything on this portal is completely free to bar members. And as it says there, we provide all sorts of written material, videos, and other resources. Additionally, and some of the most valuable tools that we've found for other bar associations are the email hotline and the remote consultations. And you just have to click on either one of those buttons to quickly engage the experts that we have at Affinity Consulting on your legal management and technology questions. So for example, if I go to this email hotline area and I click where it says click here, it fires up an email window, and it will send that email off to our experts here at Affinity, who will evaluate your question and respond within 48 hours. One of the interesting things here is that there are a couple of different items that folks might be pointed to when they use the email hotline. One would, of course, be resources available on the PracticeHQ. A second one would be knowledge that our experts at Affinity have accumulated but is not particularly noted here in the PracticeHQ. So if you write to us and say, for example, what's the best note-taking app on an iPad, for example? Well, we have a difference of opinion between a few of us here at Affinity, but we could give you a couple of choices on that. So that would just be knowledge that we have innately. And then, of course, there might be questions you would ask that would be more bar-related, and so we might point you to resources that the New Jersey Bar has already made available or has on their website. In which case, then we would direct you to those resources the bar has for you as members. With the remote consultations, what you would do is simply click this link here, and it will take you to a bookings webpage. And that bookings webpage is hosted by Office 365. What it allows you to do is book 30-minute consultations with our Affinity experts on whatever topic you have. So it is going out and it's pulling in the available experts at Affinity and their available times. And so, for example, if we wanted to book a 30-minute consultation today, the day I'm recording this video, we have several available slots. One of the nice things here is that if you pick a time, say if we pick 12:30 on February 25th, then you can scroll down. You would fill out your name, email, how you would like us to contact you. Usually we would give you a phone call. If you tell us in advance that you want to show us something that's going on with your system, we might arrange a GoToMeeting or another remote session so that we could see your screen and help you through whatever issue you're experiencing. Nice thing is when you fill this out and you schedule the appointment, it sends an appointment reminder not only to the person you're going to be speaking with, but it also sends one to you. So assuming you're using an electronic calendar and you keep all of your appointments there, it will go onto your calendar and you can know exactly when the person will reach out to you. Below the email hotline and the remote consultation options are some different categories that the bar has created for written materials and links that we at Affinity have provided. So we've sort of set this up as the life cycle of a law firm. So if you're just coming out of law school, maybe you're opening a firm, maybe you're leaving an established practice to create your own practice, in which case then you would also be opening a firm. Or maybe you're further along in your career and you're looking to sell your practice or transition out of active practice into retirement. in which case, for those interested in opening or succession planning or closing a firm, you could go ahead and click on the opening/closing firm. It's going to load up the page for opening or closing a law firm. It gives you a description of the content of these materials, sort of what their approach is, what their target is, and then we've broken down the materials into different classifications. So, for example, we have white papers on basic accounting. We have a discussion of how to build a technology budget, and maybe we have a discussion of notebook PCs or desktop PCs. All of these sorts of white papers go into considerations you might want to have front of mind when opening a practice particularly. So if we, for example, we click on the checklist on starting a firm, you'll see it brings up a list of considerations that you would want to focus on when starting a firm. So what sort of formation structure are you going to have? What's the business structure going to be? Where are you going to get the funds to start up this new entity? How are you going to find an accounting professional to help you manage the tax and other business operations? Under compensation, you might want to consider, of course, the ownership structure of the firm. If you're going out as a solo, might make it fairly easy, but there could still be some considerations you would want to focus on as far as entity structure. And if you're adding or starting with additional employees, there are certainly many things to consider with respect to compensation and benefits. Going on down, we have accounting and billing considerations, TBA being time, billing, and accounting for those of you not of the industry jargon. And it asks questions regarding simply setting up new bank accounts. Of course, if you're starting a new law firm, you're going to want not only an operating account, but also a trust account or an IOLTA account as the term of art. And further on down, different insurance policies you may wish to have. What sort of procedures would you have for billing? What kind of reports do you want to see that your business is producing as far as revenue or number of new clients in the door, et cetera, et cetera. So you want to give some thought to what sort of reports you want to see, and that might help drive considerations as to perhaps what sort of practice management software or accounting software you might want. Going back to the opening or closing of a firm, we have additional checklists down there, such as I mentioned earlier, the succession planning. So if I click on succession planning, for example, we get a nice succession planning checklist. What should you think about if you're looking to wind down a practice? You'd have to do, obviously, some things with client information, ongoing cases and the like. There's going to be issues of digital assets, as it says there, so everything from the email accounts that you use as a business to communicate with clients, to the domain, to the bank accounts, to who handles and processes credit cards, assuming you accept credit card payments. And then on down, there are, of course, all sorts of tax and employee issues related to any sort of succession planning. And this checklist gives you an idea of what you should think about in those situations. Going back to the PracticeHQ top level, we also have under these 8 categories that are listed here, client development. So if you're going out on your own for the first time, either starting a new firm or hanging out your shingle for the first time, you're going to want to think about how you can go about getting and retaining clients. And so we've broken these categories down into marketing, social media, client relations, communications, and workflows. So under the getting clients, we've got some white papers listed there as far as steps for doubling referrals, how to guide marketing on a Facebook page, for example, how to convert prospects and leads into paying clients, and then we've also got a sample client intake form, which might be particularly helpful. So when I bring that up, we put it up there that you're going to, put your logo in, and then it asks for all the sort of basic information you would want to collect when a client walks through your door and it wants to engage you for a matter. Going back one step to client development, let's take a look at keeping clients. And under keeping clients, we have a white paper, a checklist on email etiquette, and this could be particularly helpful for folks And it goes through things that you would want to consider with regard to emails in a professional capacity. This is particularly useful for those of you just starting out in practice. So if you're coming out of college and then law school and you want to bring more of a business voice to your emails, this gives you some great guidance there. And then going back to the keeping of clients, we have these comparison charts, for example. So you want to be able to meet with clients, and you, of course, want to be able to communicate with them. So there are a couple of different tools out there that are very popular for meetings. So if you need web meeting services, we've done a comparison of the various web meeting providers out there. And if I go ahead, for example, and click on this, it's going to load up a comparison chart of the various web meeting services out there. So the one that I'm most familiar with is GoToMeeting. So maybe some of you have heard of that, but there are a bunch of others out there, and there are, reasons to consider each of them. If, for example, RingCentral is going to also host your telephone service for your office, maybe there's a deal if they provide web meeting services as well. And then, of course, there are larger players out there like Adobe and Cisco. So depending on the size of the meetings you intend to hold, maybe they might make more sense. We also have comparison charts for answering services. So maybe you've heard of Ruby Receptionist, which is now just Ruby, or perhaps Smith AI. These are different sorts of services that can answer phones for you. They serve as virtual receptionists. They can take down client information, confirm appointments, all sorts of stuff like that. And then on the last comparison chart on this particular module, we have the voice over internet feature comparison chart. So for those of you unfamiliar with VoIP, what it means is that your telephone service runs through the same lines or same provider as your internet service. Nice thing about that, particularly if you're interested in being a remote working attorney, is that your business phone number travels with either your computer and or your smartphone and or your iPad, so you can make calls that look like they're coming from the office no matter where you are. Super handy and super useful. So those are some good ways to stay in touch with clients and build those long-term relationships. Going back to the main page for PracticeHQ, we have a section for documents. So of course, for most attorneys, the end product of their work is a document, whether you're doing an estate plan or perhaps you're forming a new entity for a business. In many ways, whatever the attorney does is eventually or effectively memorialized in a document. And so we've got three different areas of document issues to consider in the practice of law. First is document assembly. So if you're producing the same document repeatedly and you want to do it faster and with greater accuracy so that you don't have to constantly check for correct pronouns or verb conjugations or things like that, under the document assembly module, we have different papers that discuss how you go about implementing a document assembly system and sort of the reasons that you should consider it. And then we've got a checklist right below that that goes through the various major providers of document assembly services. And we've also got a checklist that will start you down the road to creating your own automated documents. And you could start, for example, with this white paper here on template building, which I think is really the foundational value for a law firm when they consider document assembly. So document assembly, of course, can mean anything from filling in fields that the computer answers for you, all the way up to making complex logic decisions based on the sort of entity you're forming and how many members or managers or whatever there might be. But either one of those, whether the simplest or the most complex, starts with the idea that you have all of your language in one place. And so even if you just create a simple word processor document with your language in one place, you've made a tremendous step forward in how quickly you can go from zero to a completed document. And this checklist walks you through the steps both to get all of that language in a single place and reconcile it with the different starter documents you've done in the past, all the way up through actually automating it in a drafting system. Under the document management module, we have different discussions of how you can control and get your hands around, get your arms around all of the documents and papers that come in to your practice. So whether you're receiving PDFs via email, whether you're receiving paper mail, whether you're generating documents in Microsoft Word or WordPerfect or whatever, all of those documents have to live somewhere. The smaller the firm, the less complex perhaps the solution you need. So we talk about everything, for example, with managing your documents without a document management system. And the fundamental part of that discussion talks about how you can use a sync service like Dropbox or OneDrive or any number of other ones out there as your central repository. It's going to live on your computer. It's also going to be backed up to the cloud. And then you can share those individual folders with other folks, either co-counsel, clients, etc. For those of you in larger practices or with more robust document handling needs, we talk about managing your documents with a document management system. And then further on down, we have comparison charts of cloud document storage providers, so think OneDrive, Dropbox, etc., and comparison charts of document management systems, so Worldox, NetDocs, iManage, the major players in that particular sphere. And then finally, under the documents module, we have a cybersecurity and disaster preparedness grouping. And this is the sort of stuff everyone needs to think about, nobody really wants to think about, but it talks about, for example, having a 3-2-1 backup strategy, which is an excellent, very simple way to explain how you should be caring for your electronic data. 3 copies of your data, 2 different types of storage media, so flash drive and spinning hard drive, or flash drive on the computer and cloud storage, and then one of those backups is off-site. We've got some excellent materials on email encryption and how you handle that. Of course, email is such a common practice throughout the business world, and in legal, we have this special requirement that we got to make sure we don't accidentally or intentionally reveal information about a client that they did not authorize. And so we go into how you can work with the email programs out there and the encryption services that are available for attorneys so that you can communicate via email in a safe and secure manner with your clients. Going on down to the checklists, we've got some checklists here that go through on how you can prepare for different disaster scenarios. We've tornado, winter weather, everything out there that you should probably consider from a natural disaster or external event kind of scenario. And then with cybersecurity in mind, our comparison charts focus on password managers, encryption services, and virtual private networks. So VPNs, for those of you not familiar with it, would be a discussion of how, if you're working at a library or a coffee shop or some other public place, that when you get on that Wi-Fi, you're in the same sort of network pool as everyone else at that building. How do you make sure that nobody else in that building is snooping on your traffic when you're communicating? And VPNs provide a secure, what they call a tunnel between your computer and some external computer out there on the internet, so nobody physically near you can snoop on what you're doing. And going back up to the top level of PracticeHQ, under technology, this goes through a lot of different subcategories of technology, some of which we've touched on a little bit already, others of which we have not. So under hardware and networking, for example, we have all sorts of white papers on guides to purchasing laptops, desktops, even down to simple things like what surge suppressor or uninterruptible power supply should you think about. So if you're interested in getting the skinny, quick answer on what sort of hardware you should consider, I would start under the hardware and networking area. Practice management. This goes into not only what considerations should be forefront of mind when considering a practice management solution, either a new one or implementing one for the first time. We also have comparison charts there that discuss the 2 main classes of practice management software now, the cloud-based practice management software and the traditional server-based products that have existed for some time. And of course, there are always pluses and minuses to each of those. Under the Document Management Software tab, we've got some of the same items that we talked about earlier with respect to managing your documents with or without a document management system, and then checklists and comparison charts related to document management. Bit of a review here for document assembly as well, where we talk about, again, template building and how you can work through, for example, automation stumbling blocks, and then how to walk yourself with a checklist through creating your first template of all of your information, and then beginning the process of automating that template document. Under time billing and accounting software, we walk you through the basics of law office time billing and accounting. We talk about how you do budgeting and account management, and then we even talk about time versus value billing, a bit more of a management concept. But as more and more clients demand that attorneys give them upfront a firm idea of what it's going to cost, more and more firms are moving to value billing. And so that's something you probably want to take a look at. And then, again, checklists to walk you through different items like year-ends, accounting issues, and comparison charts. So, again, just like with the practice management software, the time billing and accounting software is now also something that can be either cloud-based or server-based, as servers having been the traditional route. So there are different avenues there that you can explore on those comparison charts. Cybersecurity and disaster preparedness is what we just covered a minute ago. So just another way to get there, because of course one of the things that would be most in danger of damage from some sort of natural disaster or some other sort of event of that type would be anything in a physical office. So we've put that here to talk about how you might want to think about, perhaps in conjunction with a document management system, becoming a more paperless practice if you're not already a paperless practice. Under Office 365, we have one simple link, and this takes you to a comparison chart hosted by one of our partner companies, Excelis, that goes through the different Office 365 options that are available at the different price tiers. So if you haven't considered Office 365, which is a subscription-based way of obtaining the latest Microsoft Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook, those programs, I would take a look at Office 365 for that. And then the software features and comparison charts, this is just a simple link that puts all of our major comparison charts in a single place. So answering services, cloud document storage. A lot of these are available under their respective subcategories on other pages, but if you just want to find the comparison charts, they're all here in one place under the software and services features comparison charts. Going back up to the top level of PracticeHQ, we've got the button here for money, and so this is going to talk a lot about time billing and accounting. You can see there trust accounting and productivity and reporting. So under time billing and accounting, we've already hit a bit of this before, but you see the similar white papers that we've talked about previously regarding the basics of law office TBA, managing client funds, and then of course the checklists on reconciliation, doing some year-end accounting cleanup, and then our respective comparison charts. Under trust accounting, we've got a couple of very simple, very straightforward papers, one of which is just an explanation of client trust funds, always good to refresh oneself on that. And then under the checklist, we've got a trust reconciliation summary. So if you need some guidance on doing a trust account reconciliation, that checklist will help you with that. Under productivity and reporting, we talk about time versus value billing, and then also law office or law firm financial reporting. So one of the things that you should absolutely consider either when evaluating new practice management and accounting software, or if you're going out on your own, something to think about for the first time, would be what sort of reporting do you want to get out of the software. So you're going to put a bunch of data in there as far as clients, where you spend your time, what kind of matters they are, all that sort of stuff. What sort of reports do you want to get out of that? And before you commit yourself to a particular product, make sure that that product is capable of producing the reports that you want to see as a person who owns or participates at a high level in a business, and that's effectively what your law firm is. Similar themes under the management, we've got leadership and process mapping. Leadership has a lot of the time-honored discussions about how one handles the leadership role in a law firm. So the leadership conundrum is a great white paper on that. And then under process mapping, for those of you who've never done process mapping, it sounds a little overwhelming, but what it really is essentially creating a recipe for each thing or each event that your firm or your practice does. So this is particularly valuable for those of you who are, as we started out talking about open and closing firms, for those of you who are thinking of succession or selling a practice. In order to make your practice more valuable, one of the best things that you can do, in addition to just having a Rolodex of contacts and clients, is to have everything that you do documented, and so that you can tell a new attorney who wants to buy your practice that when I go about creating an estate plan for somebody, here are the questions I ask. Here are the 3 meetings I have. Here is the strategy and structure that I use for preparing a will and a trust, and so on down the line. And so you can then sell with that practice not just your client list, but also your cookbook, your recipes of how you go about from point A to point B being a finished product for the client. And then the comparison charts, again, just a quick button here takes you to the same place we were a little bit ago. This gives you our main comparison charts and makes it quick and easy to access there. And then finally, and this is a bar benefit that's coming straight from your bar association, and that is the learning library. So if we click on that, that will give you access to a bunch of bar content produced by your friends at the New Jersey State Bar that is actually substantive law related. So they've got podcasts here. If you haven't taken up podcast listening, I strongly encourage you to do so. It's very great. I would listen to it all the time now instead of terrestrial radio. So they've got the sidebar podcasts here. They also have different guides for new attorneys and for solos and small firms. And then they've linked to FastCase, CommunityNet, and the New Jersey Institute for Continuing Legal Education. All great substantive law resources linked directly from PracticeHQ. And then the last thing I'll mention here on the main PracticeHQ page is there at the bottom. It is Affinity University for New Jersey State Bar members. And so this is an absolutely free part of the PracticeHQ. As a member of the New Jersey State Bar, you can go to Affinity University and sign up for it. You enter this code here, NJ Bar member, and that takes the price to 0, and it gives you free access to all the great content at Affinity University. Affinity University, for those of you unfamiliar with it, is a legal learning tool. So it focuses on the software and services that legal organizations use, such as everything from NetDocuments to manage document management systems, to Clio for solo small firm practice management, all the way back to Microsoft Word for any sort of document drafting. The videos on this Affinity University site range in length from about 3 minutes all the way up to about an hour, and they are targeted videos. So if you want to know, for example, how to insert a watermark in a document in Microsoft Word, nice short 2 or 3 minute video on that, not super hard. If, however, you'd like a bit of a master's course in how to use a fundamental feature of Microsoft Word like styles, which controls paragraph and font formatting, that videos takes a little bit longer. It's about an hour. So videos in length, again, from about 3 to 4 minutes up to an hour on discrete topics that legal professionals encounter with their software on a daily basis. I hope you all enjoy the new PracticeHQ portal on the New Jersey State Bar Association website. And again, like I said at the beginning, the two most valuable features we've found with other bar associations are the email hotline and the remote consultations. It puts you right in touch with experts at Affinity, and it is absolutely free for you. So if you've got questions about legal technology or law office management, reach out to us. We'd be happy to help.